All right. Welcome, everyone. Leslie M. Thornton, Hypnosis for Permanent Weight Loss. These are some of my favorite interviews ever, even just being on with Yvonne for 1 minute prior to us going live. My heart is already expanded and warm. And as you all know, I like to bring on previous clients, graduates, some who have chosen to continue in our mastermind program to come on and share their stories, because sometimes my story is not the only story that inspires you, but different aspects of our clients, Yvonne's life, are going to really resonate with you. And yeah, so I'm excited for you to get to hear her story. I remember, Yvonne, our first call that we had together, and just like, wow, you were a go-getter. Like, as soon as you became aware of it, you were like, okay, this is what I can do. This is what has to happen. And then like, now you're back here and you made it all happen, and just such a testament. So anyway, thank you for who you are. Thank you for being here. And yeah, I guess the first question I'd like to ask you, where you were at prior to finding hypnosis for permanent weight loss in regards to food, your body, life, whatever you'd be willing to share would be great.
Well, I have been overweight as long as I can remember. I was successful with Weight Watchers one time. Back in 2003, I had gotten down to 127 pounds. So that was the thinnest I have ever been in my life. And I was thrilled. And then I was pregnant a few months later. So
absolutely. And do you mind saying where you're from and what you do for a living?
Oh, yeah, sure.
I can help. Yeah, I didn't ask that.
That's all right. I'm in Lawton, Oklahoma. I am an accountant, and I am working on earning my CPA license right now.
Awesome. Yes, we've been following that journey. Congratulations. Yes. Okay, cool. Yeah, so wow, you got down to 127 pounds at one point.
Yes.
Got it. And what was that journey like for you? What were you doing? Or
it took me about 18 months on Weight Watchers to get down to that. I started about 206. But on that time, I had moved from California to Oklahoma. So I attributed my success of doing that is I didn't have a food history with anybody out here. So I was able to, not going out to eat or just focusing on what I wanted to do things. It was a lot easier because I didn't have anybody to deal with a history. And I had
pause for a second, because that is such an important aspect. Like that right there, I can totally relate to that, Yvonne, because when I was really successful and I got down to 108 pounds at 5'2", I just realized I still have lines coming in at me. I should probably fix that. Same thing, like it worked, but I was pretty isolated, like it's fine when you don't have all the other people and different events and whatever happening around you. But realistically, when looking at all of life, like it just wasn't actually going to happen for the rest of my life. So yeah. Do you agree with that?
Yes, absolutely. Because after I had my son, I was allowed to start the program again for 6 weeks, but I struggled and I struggled and I struggled and I can't tell you how many times I've started Weight Watchers and stopped and started and stopped since he's been 6 weeks old, and he's 16 now. So this last go, I really tried to give it a really good shot for the last 3 years. And I made some great friends in the program, and they're still my friends now, but we are all just struggling like crazy. And I just had so many wonderful things happening in my life, becoming a mother and then going back to school and pursuing all these things. And the stress of it all just didn't work with trying to lose weight. But
and I'll pause for a second there too, because I think there's like nuances. Like I totally hear, like I love how you said that, of like there's so many amazing things happening in my life. Like I'm a new mom, like there's birth of my son, like going back to school, CPA, like the whole thing, the career and all the things. And then there's that struggle. And it's like, this is like, okay, we're going to get like really quantum into my like, because it's like, is it a problem or is it like actually not? Obviously, when we're in it, it feels like when we can't stay on track and we're struggling with the Weight Watchers or whatever it is that we're following, it's like really bad. It's like, what is happening? What's wrong with me? Worst case scenario, we can't get back on track. But it's like, what if, like, because Yvonne had a son and she's like so much enjoying this life of being a mom, and like that her values just have changed, And weight loss actually isn't the most important thing to her anymore. Curious if you can speak on that now, having gone through the program, or what your perspective is at this point on that.
Before the program, that didn't make any sense.
Yes.
Why can't I just weigh and measure and exercise? And I did it before. Why can't I do it again? But now that I'm on the other side of this, I can look back and see, okay, because my son did have some developmental delays that we've managed, and he's doing beautifully now. But that was some new struggles we had. I was going back to school, like I said, new struggles. So those are just, I didn't understand then. What I understand now is that you're right. My values and how I was approaching all this have just wasn't in alignment as what I thought they were.
Oh my gosh. Yes. And that was my exact experience. Like when I was transitioning away from that really strict food program, no sugar, no flour, etc., like it felt so painful and like, what's wrong? Why can't I stay on track? Like I could not see outside of like, I am failing. Like this is a failure. This is horrible. But then after doing all the work that I now give you guys in the program, it's like, it's getting like, no, like I had this like thing inside my subconscious that was like, when I'm 30, I can relax a little bit. Like I can settle into my like womanlyhood and like, like just enjoy life and focus on my career instead of like working on having that perfect body. It was like, anyway, so I didn't get it until after either. But anyway, for anyone listening, it's like, it's very painful where you're at when you can't stay on track. And is it possible that there's been a values change and like, it's not actually the most important thing. And then maybe, but because what does matter, and Yvonne, I'm curious, how you'll respond to this, is like, we can put on way more weight if we keep trying to do the same thing and it's not working, like you said, for years and years and years. Like it like sounds like over a decade of struggling with Weight Watchers. Am I getting that right?
Yes.
It's like, how much more weight did we gain by like trying to do that thing that is actually the reason it's not working anymore is because it's no longer in alignment. And it's like, how much weight will you not put on if you actually can like ask yourself deep within yourself, like, what actually matters to me in this area of my life right now? And as I've shared before, like what mattered to me was I wanted to be around other body positive women that had intimate conversations, that didn't judge each other based on how they looked or how they ate. And it was like, that was my truth. So then as soon as I became aware of that, it's like, well, where's the program I can go into where it's going to support me with that? So I'm not left with all of my brain that's still stuck in diet mentality, causing all the pain and suffering anymore. It can prevent a lot of weight gain if you get present to that and take action in a different direction faster.
Yes. And that's something I picked up on while listening to your podcast, was if I can learn to deal with some of those other reasons why I'm overeating or the weight I am, then the weight will just take care of itself naturally.
Yay. Absolutely. Awesome. Well, I'm so glad that you found us, even though I'm sorry it took so long, but I also trust that exactly when people find us is exactly when it's meant to happen.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Because when I did find your program and I got to talk to you for that very first time, the rest of that week, things just started happening. It was amazing how things just started falling in place. And a pathway for me to do this program started to become open. And that pathway wasn't there before I talked to you.
Yeah, absolutely. Yes. And if you wouldn't mind me sharing, because, that's, we start with a 20-minute call around with everybody. And then if it makes sense, if we think we can help you, then you guys get a complimentary call currently with me. It won't be me forever. And I always tell people that I'm like an engineer, I feel like I need to get to the source of like, what is Yvonne's, we find that one pinhole and we just crank it. And it's that's exactly where the source of all of her food stuff and all of the craziness is happening. And once we become aware of that, then you get the clarity. And it's then things start opening up because you start to see the world in a different way. Do you remember what that was for you? What we really identified?
Well, you heard me. People, I don't always feel like I've been heard my life. I might share my story, I might tell you what's going on, but you were the first person that I've ever encountered that just heard me in such a deep way that I was like, I need more of this. If this is what, if I'm going to be heard and acknowledged and supported in this manner, I need more of this program. I needed to be with you and your team to get more of this. And that's what did it.
Wow. I appreciate you sharing that. And that makes total sense. I think about even, I mean, one of the reasons I left nursing in the healthcare system was because it's just like you kind of feel like you're going through like a manufacturer's like check the boxes and just like, you know, it's like, okay, yeah, based on this, you need this prescription, like see you later, you know, and it's like, you know, craving that, like, I really want to feel heard and I want to see that I'm seen and that you can actually help me specifically and that you care about what's actually happening. Yeah, thanks for sharing that, because I think there is so much power to that, even more so than just the pattern itself, but rather like, yeah, you get that experience.
Yeah.
Great. Yeah. And I mean, I get feedback all the time from our clients about the coaches inside. I was talking about how I'd like to do like podcasts separately on how amazing our coaches are inside as well. And has your experience been that? A lot of things I hear people say is like, to know that I have a team that is thinking about me every day and examining what's happening for me in the background and then showing me what I'm like missing and giving me action steps to create a different thing happening in my life. Is that your experience that you're having?
Yes, your coaches are amazing. Even in my writings to them and in my talking on the calls, they'll hear things and see little threads that I've carried through that I didn't realize I was doing. And so they've picked up on those things and shared them again and then helped me work through some of that. But there was one particular call that for the first time, something was really frustrating me and I fell apart on the call in front of the coach and the other members in the call. And I was sharing something I don't share with people. It's just very scary for me to share. And, but I got to share it and I did the ugly crying on camera and they were there. They supported me through it. They didn't make me feel like what I was feeling was wrong or I should be ashamed of it. They were there. And I think that was really the biggest turning point for me in the program, because after that, everything just expanded.
Oh my gosh, absolutely. And I remember, I think I've shared on the podcast before, like the first time I was in a mastermind program or like a coaching program like this, and same thing. It was like, there's kind of always that guard up, like, oh, they can't see me cry, or like, I can't go there. Like, I don't want them to see that I like still have these like skeletons in my closet that I personally feel ashamed about or whatever. And then like the second that I did, like everything started to open up. Hannah and I, one of our coaches on our team, were talking about how both of us were part of yoga communities in our past. And that like hearing the other people in the yoga circles at the end, like actually sharing from their heart, like, this is the way that I'm feeling. This is something that's happening really in my life. Like, I remember the first day that happened, I was like looking around, like, is this supposed to be like, I mean, I like what we're talking about, but are we allowed to do this? And like, so then it challenged me to then like actually speak from my heart, you know, and it became like kind of a habit. And then it's like realizing like, that's what I've always been craving in the first place. We just had a woman graduate our program yesterday, and I always ask what people's 3 biggest wins were from being in the program. And number 1, she said, I'm not judging myself anymore. I'm not criticizing myself. I actually like my own company. And she said, number 2 was I got to be vulnerable and share like my weirdness and who I actually am with the people on the calls, and see that they actually like loved me more when I shared those things I was scared to share. And like, you know, whatever. She said, I don't think one could have happened without the other. I don't think that I could have loved myself and stopped being so judgmental if I didn't have the group to also validate that like what I'm saying is not crazy or weird or insane or whatever. And like without the group, you know, like they both went hand in hand, and it is truly the power of the group dynamic. So I'm so delighted that you've had that experience, and good for you for leaning into that. Right. And ugly crying on that. And for anyone listening who hasn't done it, like, we won't make you ugly cry, but I'm telling you, it feels really good. And things do really start to open up when you are able to do that. So highly recommend that. And it looks like we lost Yvonne for a second, which is totally fine. I'm sure that she'll be tuning back in just a moment. So yeah, the power of the group. Yeah, when I first was sharing, like I said, one of the other resources that I have given out for my clients before has also been like how to not care what other people think. I was just thinking about this the other day around how, I mean, when I talk to people all the time around this topic, here comes Yvonne again. It's like that was such a main turning point for me. Welcome back.
Sorry.
No worries. I'm chatting about how there was a resource that I have and still have around, if anybody wants to see it, of all the different things that I had to do to get past my fear of judgment and what other people thought about me, and how it's been like a major part of my growth. Like I did and ran an ecstatic dance. So that's basically like dancing like nobody's looking while everybody's looking. It's like a silent meditative, type of dance experience. And that was super helpful. And then like forcing myself just over and over again to get out of my comfort zone and like say things that I want to say to people, or go to events and like actually walk up to people and say hi, like these things I never would have wanted to do before. But yeah, just how transformational that can be. So what are some of the things that started opening up for you? So I know we talked about your first call, and like, so maybe share a little bit about like what opened up then, and then maybe some stuff that opened up after you're having the ugly cry in the group call.
Well, when we first talked, I was not working. I was intentionally staying at home to study for the CPA exam, because it's quite a challenge, that exam. But when we got off the call, I knew I needed to get back to work so that I could have some money to sign up for the program. And so I had started putting in job applications that very next day. And so that was like a Wednesday that I started putting applications. By Friday, I had 2 job interviews, which for accounting, I've not, it's very rare. I've got a lot of friends in accounting that they have not gotten interviews that fast. They put out hundreds of resumes. I put out 5 applications and I had 2 interviews for the following week. So I had an online interview on Monday and an in-person interview on Tuesday. Both interviews went well. The Tuesday interview, in less than 24 hours, offered me a position at a pay higher than I was asking for. And so that just, so something changed, it was ready, it was time. That I was able to step into that so quickly. And then very quickly I got the finances together to join the program. And that took me by surprise as well, how quickly that came together also.
Oh my God. And what was your experience of yourself when you made all of that stuff happen after our call?
There was a lightness, like a physical lightness and a brightness about me. I just felt on top of the world that all of this came together. So it was the right time.
Oh my God.
It was the right time for all of us.
Yeah. Oh, so cool. Thank you for sharing it. Yeah, like the people who always do the best in the program are the ones who get super resourceful. They act super fast. They're like, okay, I know that I need this, and here's what I'm gonna do. Send out 5 job applications, like make it happen. Wow. And then here you are getting to do that. And what I find, and you can let me know how it is for you, Yvonne, like when I'm not, like, especially being like, you're a powerful woman who makes stuff happen. Like that's clear to me, sometimes we forget that. I get that, right? Like sometimes we don't see that for ourselves, and exactly. And then we'll play smaller in life. And it's like, you might've been at home and you were studying and that was really good and like in alignment and everything. But like Yvonne's capable of like having the job, work, like being in the program, like working on our CPA exam. Like, it's like you do better when you are like fully engaged in life versus like, let me take all this spacious time. It's like almost like it's like too much. And then it's like, anyway, doesn't really work out as much. Do you have that same experience?
I'm learning that about myself. So yes, that's what I've learned through this program. So
so good. Awesome. Cool. And then how about after the ugly cry? What was that opening like?
Let's see, my church had a family night at a place here in town. It's similar to like what a Dave and Buster's would be. There's I had gone roller skating at this event. I was having a good old time, and I was posting pictures on Facebook. And I don't normally get comments on my pictures about, or just and in general from average people at how beautiful I am. My husband will tell me, my mom will tell me, close friends will tell me, but nobody really doesn't comment on that. But one of the pictures, somebody commented, "You are so beautiful." And I was floored because, well, I've learned that, I was doing something I was enjoying, and that part of me was just shining through in these pictures. And so something was changing in me. So, and I'm seeing it more in my face now. I can look in the mirror and I see a beautiful woman staring back at me now.
Oh
So,
my God, Yvonne. And what was it like before when you looked at yourself in the mirror?
I would see all my flaws. I would just see my flaws.
Yeah, like my guts hanging out, my boobs are sagging, like all the things, right? Oh my God. I just talked to a woman this morning. Same thing. I was like, "Oh, what's it like for you when you look in the mirror?" And she's like, "Oh, like disgusted." She's like, just disgusted. And I'm so grateful that I get to have these conversations with people to bring me back every day to like remember what that was like, because I'm 5'2" and 145 pounds, whatever. Like I'm not a skinny mini, but I always love the way that I look, like even naked in the mirror. Like, it's just like, what an amazing body I have. But it was not that way when I first started it. It was like, oh my God, fear thoughts. I look horrible. Like, what is that fat plump doing over there? And it just isn't there anymore. And like, so how would you describe, because I'm sure people listening are like, how is that even possible? And the other aspect that I feel like is important for us to share for people and to get your perspective on is like, I know that you weren't weighing yourself before, you started, and then you actually got up the courage to weigh yourself when you were in the program, and it was actually less than you thought. So we don't have a good tracking of how much, or maybe you've seen how much, if you've lost any since that number or whatever. But how would you describe like your relationship with your body, but just also like, how did it change from being like weight loss focused and I have to lose this weight fast and now to like to where you're at today?
It was weird in the beginning to put food on a plate and not weigh it and measure it and count my points. That was very weird because I had done that for so long. But I was just, like you've said in this program, just treat it like a science experiment. And I was just, okay, going with that. And when I did finally step on the scale, I was expecting the number to be a lot higher, like at least 26 pounds higher than what it was. So I was able to have that freedom around food, and the scale didn't go up drastically. I mean, it went up just a little bit, but nothing within reason for how I was eating then compared to what I was doing before. So I could see that there's something to this. And then I've been trying, not perfect at it yet, but trying to, before I go to eat something, okay, what am I wanting right now? What am I needing right now? Okay, that sounds fantastic. Let's start with a serving. Did that serving fill you up? No, we need a little bit more. So I've been trying to talk to myself in that manner.
Yay.
But,
yes.
So sometimes I can follow that along great, and other times I kind of forget. Still learning. But or my husband wants to take me out for dinner or something. Okay, we'll just go with the flow a little bit more. But I have not put on a ridiculous amount of weight that you would think you would do in this without those restrictions.
Yes. Oh, yes, absolutely. I remember that for myself so much, of being like, oh my God, if I'm not weighing and measuring absolutely everything they put on, like I'm definitely going to gain 10 pounds in a week. Like I've seen it happen before. Like I had all this story wrapped around it. And it was just like, okay, so now that you're literally telling me that there aren't any rules at all, like this is ridiculous. Right. But it forces us to finally, without the band-aid of the diet thing, like look at, whatever is like, it's like, okay, I'm realizing that like this feeling of anxiety around it's like, I can't trust myself. Like I can't control myself. Like we have to go inward and like find out like, what is this panic feeling? Like, and like build back up that trust that that diet has made us feel like we can't do because, well, for me, it was I'm a food addict, or because like, I don't know, you have all this evidence built up in the past, but so many people, that's their experience, is like, oh, I actually didn't gain like 20 pounds and I ate anything I wanted to this week. Like, how is that even possible? So then it takes time. And yeah, you're still, you know, relatively new at this. What are you, like 11 or 12 weeks?
Right. Roughly,
something like that in. And it took me, you know, a year to really have it be like completely automatic. But so glad to hear that you have, it sounds like a lot more peace around all the different things. And the other thing is like, we still, to be honest, last night, you know, I watched myself, and it was the first time in a long time, because I had shared recently that I made a really big investment in a matchmaker for myself. And so knowing that, right, is like, it's kicking up my stuff again. I have a friend who is like in Buddhist and Zen traditions, and I was like, it's kicking up all my like SHIT, right? and she was like, that's one way to say it. She's like, in Zen Buddhism or whatever, she was like, we call it clarification. I was like, well, that's a much nicer way to say it.
It is.
Right. But the thing is like, when we are committed to a growth path, right? Like, I will always be looking out to be like the best version of myself and all these different things, and constantly becoming aware of everything. Like, there's gonna be times, and food is always gonna be probably the main, like, hey, here's how we know that something is still unresolved within us, you know, or like there's still some emotions that we're not aware of or whatever. So I found myself, I had some leftover Halloween candy, and I had like 3 Reese's peanut butter cups, you know, and like some like Mary's crackers with hummus. And I knew it. Like, usually I'm just totally at peace about it. Like, yeah, this is just what I want. But I was like, you are definitely triggered like right now underneath it. And yeah, time to take a look. So just to normalize that, like, it's more about the commitment of continuing to ask, like, hey, what is this about, without the freak out, without the panic, because we have these stops, you know, carved in by way of being in the program to say, this is what happened. I'd like to go to the source of what happened there so that we can uncover it, become aware of what's, you know, holding me back, and then be on my way, not binging for the next, you know, 10 years in a row, because I never saw that.
Well, about halfway through the 8-week program, I have stopped stress eating.
Wow, really?
And yes, and I have usually when I'm studying and getting close to an exam is when it really, really kicks up.
Yeah.
And I was buying the skinny popcorn for a while, and that was just, I was eating that. Mm-hmm. There's a bag sitting in my kitchen still for 2.5 months now that I haven't touched.
Isn't that the craziest, coolest thing?
And it is, it really is. But there's been a couple times I have been triggered to start to stress eat.
Yes.
But I was able to, because of the tools that you guys have taught us now, I was able to pause long enough to remind myself, we don't do that anymore. Aww. Let's try something else. So it was getting on a call, or just journaling, or tapping. One of those tools was able to get me to stop long enough to not reach for the food. So it's been 2.5 months now. I have not been stress eating. And that's my biggest takeaway from this program right now.
Oh my God. I'm sure everybody listening is like, please, I need that. I need that. And yeah, go ahead.
As a matter of fact, on the calls I've been sharing, because I'm going to sit for a section of the CPA exam next week, and I can feel in my body all the stresses and anxieties bubbling up, but I'm not reaching for food. That same feeling is there when I would reach for the food, but not reaching for food. So I've got some other, you know, I've got the group, got the mastermind group, they're supporting me and working through these tools. So it's not perfect yet, but I'm not eating.
Yeah.
So that's huge for me.
Yeah, I really get that. And yeah, kind of like I was saying, like, I think the thing is to realize that it's probably never going to be perfect, you know, but to just realize it will get easier. Then, you know, I will say, you know, years out, like, it's pretty awesome. And again, like I'm saying, I love having these conversations to remember how stressful and panicky it was when I couldn't stop. But yeah, I remember just looking back and being like, oh my God, I haven't binged in like a really long time. Like, I don't even stress eat anymore. Like same thing. Like there's been like cookies and candy in my cabinet for like weeks and I haven't touched it. Like,
Yeah. We just had Halloween and there's been Halloween candy in my house and I had some, but I wasn't having it because I needed it to feel better about something else. It was there. I wanted it.
And you have the tools. Way to go. And way to go with like your own like ability to say, like, I'm taking something from that for what I shared about last night of like, we don't do this anymore. I'm going to try that on. I just took a Yvonne thing. And
the other thing this program has given me is when I first started, I was still struggling with my studying. I had a lot of, and I've heard in your podcast, other people say, I'm not smart enough. I'm not good enough. That was some of the things that also resonate with me. And I was feeling that because this exam stuff is not easy. Yeah. But, and I wasn't as dedicated to my studies as I should have been. But working through this program, I started to sit down and study some more. I increased my study time. I decided when I was going to look at possibly scheduling my exam. Then I scheduled my exam and now it's, next week. So through this process, I was regaining my confidence and I can do this. I am capable of this. And so these tools in this program has helped remind me of who I am. And a phrase somebody in the group said one of the other nights, our badassery is the phrase they use.
Yes.
So I have the abilities and capable to do this again. So it helped restore my confidence. So.
Wow. Yeah. And you did that by, trusting that making the phone call and, knowing that this is what you needed to do and taking the actions. There was a part of you, like you said, it sounds like you were really ready. And I'm glad we're able to support you in receiving that, because it's like I said, we forget, so many people have the thing of like, I can't do it, like it's just that voice in our head that will really paralyze us from really going after what we want. And then just, we are the 5 people we hang out with the most. And if you constantly have, women around you that are making stuff happen and, supporting you and knowing you're a human to have those thoughts and to feel those feelings. And like, once you do that, you get past it. It's like, here we go. Yep. Ain't no stopping us. Oh, Yvonne, thank you so much for sharing your story. So if anyone out there is, in a space where they're stuck with food, can't stay consistent, can't stay motivated, they've been trying to do Weight Watchers for years and years, and they can't stay on track, what, last piece of advice would you give them?
Call this program and just have that first conversation. You will see how your life can change and how you will feel. And then you'll be motivated to do what you need to do to get into this program.
Yeah, that's awesome. Absolutely. And no strings attached. Sometimes people can't start right away. You had to get your job stuff going, right? Whatever, but it was the catalyst. It's the same thing. I had a friend who she was like, said to me one day, she's like, I think I'm going to hire that business coach for myself, but I'm going to wait until January. And I was like, why wait until January? Why don't you just book the call and see, like, there's going to be some value you get from taking that first action and then go from there. And she was like, you're right. She like booked that call and like her life started, life starts when you take action and show up. So yeah, at least you'll get some clarity and get the ball rolling like Yvonne did. Awesome.
Yeah, so there was a couple months between the first call and me actually starting, but the desire was there. And so if it's meant for you to be here, you will find a way to get here.
Oh, absolutely. And what would you say about the community that's that we have?
It's an amazing group of women. I mean, I have met at least one man in the programs or on your staff and such, but mostly women. But I was looking for this community of women that are you each have their goals and we're each supporting each other and making each other better. So these were the cheerleaders I've been looking for.
Yay! So glad that you're here. Thank you again for doing this interview, taking time out of your day. Good luck with your CPA exam next week. You got it, no matter what. It's awesome, but you got it. I know you know that. I can see it in your eyes as you just said that. You're like, thank you, it's done. Awesome. Congratulations. And again, thank you so much for taking the time.
Thank you for having me.
Great. And for those of you listening, if you're ready to book that call and stop putting your life on hold and you want to start getting some badassery results like Yvonne, you can go ahead and text the word hypnosis to 72727. Or if you're watching right now in the Facebook group, just send us or me a message and myself or my team will get back to you very soon. Yvonne, thank you again so much.
Thank you.